Because I don't live in either my past or my future, I'm interested only in the present. If you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man. Life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment we're living right now. Hello and welcome to the Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Locke, and this podcast is an adventure on how to unlock the best version of ourselves and live an extraordinary life. If you've ever thought, what is the secret to success and why is it that some people are more successful than others, then you're in the right place. As in this podcast, I'm talking to the experts and successful people from around the world, and with my own personal stories of failure, together we can unlock the success in your career, business, and even your personal life too. Now don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my latest episodes released every Wednesday. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode. It is the end of season 3. Oh no. I know, but don't be sad because we're still going to kick off with a fantastic episode to wrap up this wonderful season. It's been a fantastic season, probably one of the biggest and busiest and most popular of the seasons as well. So I'm going to share with you 3 lessons that I've learned from season 3. But first, I think it'd be quite important to say firstly, thank you to you. To you, the listener, for listening to this podcast. I really do appreciate anybody taking the time to listen to my dulcet tones, but for anybody to actually download and take the time to listen to this, I truly appreciate that. So firstly, thank you to you, the listener, wherever you are right now, on a bus, in the car, on a jog, wherever you are right now, thank you for downloading and listening to this episode. It really means a lot. So before I share those 3 lessons, I thought it'd be quite cool to give a little bit of info for any of you fans out there who are probably analytical and you like your data. I'm going to share with you a few stats and figures to kind of give you an idea of the podcast and what it does. And again, this is no kind of, I guess as a metric, there's no comparison here to anything, but I just thought it'd be quite cool to let people know what actually happens behind the scenes. So as of this recording, as this is going out, as I'm recording this, we have just hit over 7,000 downloads, which is pretty cool for a podcast that's 12, 14, 15 months, give or take 1 or 2 months if you obviously take away the summer break that I had in 2021, which is fantastic because it's been a slow process. It took a little while for the podcast to kick off, but now the podcast, it gets about 600 to 900 downloads every single month, which is brilliant. But I thought I'd go into a little bit more of this detail to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. Because for me, I wanted to take the time to review this wonderful podcast because I want to make sure whoever listens to this, you who are listening to this episode right now, I want to make sure that I'm delivering the best content. So when I come to season 4, I'm taking all this information with me and yeah, we're going to build it into something awesome. So as I said, to this point in time, it's just hit over 7,000 downloads. Interestingly enough, for any analytical fans out there, it's mainly listened on Apple Podcasts. 44% of the podcast is listened on Apple Podcasts. Then it's only a small number of 15% on Spotify. Then we've got loads of other kind of micro channels such as Ghana, we've got Chrome, Google, and so forth. But pretty much nearly 50% of the listeners are on Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, let us know. Yeah, give us a rating. As I always say, hit that little 5-star. It'd be great to know who you are. And again, put your Instagram or social media handle in your review and we'll share it for you. But interesting as well, I don't know if this is just a thing with the modern age now, but 75% of listeners listen on a mobile device, which I think is pretty straightforward, but there is 11% on a smart home. So if you're listening to this on Alexa then, or a smart device, then hello to you as well. And 4% on desktop as well. So yeah, so for me that's great because that means that whatever I do going forward, if it's anything to do with show notes or any kind of content I want to bring, then maybe if it's on a mobile device, maybe we need to make it a bit more smaller or a bit of a shorter podcast. So like a bit like my magical musings that are 5 minutes or 10 minutes long. Because if people are listening on mobiles, maybe it's in the gym, maybe it's on a commute, maybe it's on a walk. And I know, as a millennial myself, that people are very impatient, so you may not be listening for hours and hours. I definitely can't listen to a podcast for about an hour or 2 hours long. If I see a podcast that is 2 hours long, unless it's like one of my heroes, I might listen to it. But I haven't got the time to listen to 2 hours straight. But there you go, interestingly. But anyway, what's quite cool is in the last season, so season 3, in terms of the episodes, the top 3 episodes that got the most downloads are quite interesting, actually. And some of them are solo episodes, which is quite interesting because I do get guests on the show. But the top episode was I'm Going to Be a Father, which is my magical musing. And I'm really pleased for this one because this was the kind of start of my magical musings journey. I wanted to create a short form piece of content that's going to be 5 minutes or less, just talking about, my thoughts and rambles. So that there's not kind of a script or anything. And I don't mean to say that any of my episodes are scripted at all, but there are questions that I usually format for my guests so we can have some sort of structure. But I'm quite pleased with that. I'm Going to Be a Father. The magical musings have really taken off quite nice, and I like that solo input. But again, if you listen to this, tell me, do you prefer the solo episodes of me just rambling on? Maybe it could be something to do with the Success Principles by Jack Canfield, or maybe you like listening to the guests and you want more. Let us know. The second episode is the 2021 review, which is obviously going to be the second episode that came out in season 3, which is my review of the last horrendous start, I guess, of 2021, and it got better, but 2021 review, and the third, which was another start of the new series, which was Take Some Fucking Responsibility for Your Life, which was my review of the Success Principles. Now, there may be a reason why that got a lot of downloads, and it probably is because of the keyword search for Jack Canfield. He's very popular in the personal development world, so it could be that a lot of people organically are finding that. However, this tells me 3 things. In the top 3 episodes, all 3 of them are solo episodes. Now, that doesn't go to say that the rest of the episodes with the guests weren't as good. Literally by about 5 to 10 downloads difference between the top 3 to the top 10. So there's not much in that gap. But the top 3 that came out were the solo episodes, which makes me think, maybe going forward, maybe more solo episodes. And one of those episodes is going to be one of my lessons, which I'm going to share with you. Anyway, so download. So a little bit of an interesting thing here for you as well, a bit of knowledge for you here. So when I first released season 1, which was in September 2020, and I did just a string of about 3 to 4 months just to, trial it out with about 13 episodes. I think I missed like a week or 2 over Christmas time. But in that time, I got just about 1,700 downloads. Well, it was 1,734 to be precise. And that was in about 3 to 4 months. Then season 2, which I kicked off in January, so 29th of January 2021, and I did a nice 6 to 7 month run to the 1st of July, we got 2,208 downloads. Now, there was a little gap for the summer break because wedding season kicked off, and if anybody remembers, 2021 went a little bit mental, which was good. There was a short interim gap, but then I kicked off again for September 2021, which has now been season 3 up until the 16th of March now, which when this episode goes out. And in that time, it's 2,400 downloads, which is great. So this tells us one thing. The good news is that each season is growing in numbers, which is absolutely amazing, which tells me the content is being found organically. I can see like the episodes like Jack Canfield, great SEO searching, great SEO keywords. People are finding this content, which is great. So if you are listening to this, thank you so much, for finding this podcast. So that's great. So in total, as you can work out, that's just over like 7,000 downloads, which is brilliant. And the last thing I wanted to share with you as well is the top countries. So top countries, interesting fact here, 63% of you, the listeners, are in the UK. 14% are in the USA, 13% in India. So if you're listening to this in India, hello to everyone out there. It's great to hear that my dulcet tones are being broadcasted to the world and in India. So hello to all my Indian fans as well. And then it kind of breaks down into lots of smaller numbers like 2% and 1%, but Canada would be the next one. And even Germany's the next in the 1%. And then it goes into 1% minuses. But I can tell you that this podcast is listened in 82 countries, which is brilliant. So again, if you listen to this episode, tell me where you're listening. Get in touch. Tell me if you like it. Tell me what's going on. Am I drabbling on a bit? Do you like it? Tell me where you're listening. Give us a review and I'll share it. I'd love to find out where you are listening to right now. But I guess the last fact before I share those 3 lessons is that one of the great things I've learned is between January the 1st of 2022 this year to March the 3rd, which was when I did all of this captured data, because I have just been on holiday. So fans of the podcast, you'll know there was no episode last week. I'm really sorry. I went away. Didn't get time to actually get the podcast out there, which is terrible. Lack of consistency. I do apologise. But anyway, January the 1st to March the 3rd. So that's literally 4, 8, 9 weeks. I was able to have download of 1,289 downloads, which is really impressive to have that amount of downloads in about 9 weeks. That's a really good number. So again, the growth of this podcast is just growing and growing. I have a few certain goals, as people are aware. I want to try and get this podcast into the top 10 of the self-improvement charts. I really think that we can get these messages out there, get more people being the best version of themselves and creating that wonderful life. But there you go. So I guess for me, the big learning there, which is an extra lesson here, is that the podcast is moving in the right place, which is really good. I'm really, really grateful for anyone that listens to this. You who are listening to this right now, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's growing. The countries are moving. I think the first season was like 30 countries. So now the fact that we're just over, 14 months old, that this is now in over 82 countries, which is absolutely amazing. And the amount of guests that I'm now attracting as well, which is brilliant. I actually get emails every week saying, hey, we'd love to come on your podcast. So there's now a waiting list for the Unlocked podcast, which is awesome. Who would have thought that I'd have people queuing up to go onto the podcast? So that's a great thing. So I guess the big learning for me is that, yes, I'm really grateful that this is now moving. But now the thoughts are, well, what can we now do to be even better? What can we do to grow further? How can I make this a more engaging and probably inclusive podcast to get more engagement from everyone? And one of the things that I've done is I've invested into a little cool device called the Rodecaster Pro, and I'm very excited for it. It's a really cool little mixer desk where you can literally just record. You can literally do the episodes without editing. You can just control it with all the mics. It's an XLR mic, so I'm getting a brand new microphone to get some more dulcet tones out there, and also add some sound bites as well. But also, you can plug in a phone, which means voice memos could come on to the podcast, which is really cool. And I think this would be a really cool way for getting people to share tips, maybe to send in questions. Wouldn't that be cool if we have a live Q&A? So that's season 4. That's just my thoughts. I'm not going to reveal too much because I've got some planning to do with that. I'm looking forward to sharing that out. But watch this space. That's going to be coming out very, very soon. So that's season 3 wrapped up. But I thought it'd be quite cool to just share 3 lessons that I've taken from this season. So this season has had the most episodes, with 30 episodes plus a bonus episode as well. And I've been banging out more content. So instead of just an episode every single week, as some listeners are aware, the fans of the podcast, you'll know that there's also a Magical Musings episode, the Jack Canfield series as well. So I'm putting out about 4 to 6 episodes a month, which is extremely hard as well when you have a business to run as well, because this podcast makes no money at all. So it's really difficult. So that's the thing that I'm continuing with. But from that, lots of different themes, obviously going from the place of almost my child being born. So I've now become a father. I've gone through different themes of consistency, such as the social media lurkers episode. Love that. Great reminder to keep going and that people are always watching and always listening. And I guess something for me that the first lesson I wanted to share with that is about that consistency piece. One of the things that I think that we can often always get bogged down with and frustrated with is a lack of success or a lack of abundance. So what I mean by this is there is a problem sometimes that we're always focusing on what we haven't got. I haven't got 5,000 followers yet. I haven't got 100,000 downloads on the podcast. I'm not making this amount of money yet. And interestingly enough, through a lot of this research through the success principles, as you hear more of those coming out soon, there's this thought of, if you start thinking about what you haven't got, I haven't got enough downloads, I haven't got enough YouTube subscribers, I haven't got this, that is what you will attract in your life, because those are the thoughts that you are thinking about. If you constantly say, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough money, whatever, that is going to program into your brain to think that you don't have enough money. It's basic kind of science here from NLP here, I guess, as well. But there's a lot of this about the law of attraction, which I'm kind of discovering, which I'm going to do some episodes on season 4, because I used to think it was a load of old nonsense. And I hope I don't offend anyone out there, but I've now started to have some very strange moments using the law of attraction. And now my eyes have opened up and I'm starting to realise, well, actually, how we choose to think and feel affects everything. The thoughts that you have in your mind will affect your behaviour and your success and your outcomes as well. So if you're constantly thinking about what you haven't got, that's what you're going to attract. And that will then start getting you bogged down, the comparisonitis. Why is that person on social media doing a lot better than me? Or why is that person doing this? And that's where that social media lurker comes in, with that consistency of just keep showing up, sharing that message. Because as Tony Robbins says, we often have this idea of we can sometimes be, we can overestimate what we can do in a year, but we can underestimate what we can do in 3 years. So sometimes it is about that long game, but it's about that consistency. And I wanted to share this quote from The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, which I'm reading at the minute. And it's from Jack Canfield, as you all know, big fan of Jack Canfield from the old Success Principles. And I think this is really relative. So I'm going to read this out to you. Just find my thing. Here we go. So think of a car driving through the night. The headlights only go 100 to 200 feet forward, and you can make it all the way from California to New York driving through the dark, because all you have to see is the next 200 feet. And that's how life tends to unfold before us. If we just trust that the next 200 feet will unfold after that, and the next 200 feet will unfold after that, your life will keep unfolding. And it will eventually get you to the destination of whatever it is you truly want, because you want it. And I think that's so important right now. I have these big goals of TEDx talk, top 10 podcasts in the self-improvement charts. I don't necessarily know how I'm going to get there, but like that car scenario with the headlights just 200 feet in front of me, if I can just keep going that 200 feet and then going a little bit more. And like he says, when you're driving in the dark, you can only see up to 200 feet in front of you. But as you keep going, you get closer and closer, and then the road starts to unfold and you can start to see that destination get closer and closer. So that's my first lesson. It's just keep going, keep being consistent, keep on swimming, as Steve Judge says, which is a great episode coming out in season 4. And this is just that idea of just keep driving or keep swimming and just let those headlights unfold as you keep getting closer and closer to your destination. So that's lesson number 1 from season 3. Keep driving, just keep going forward, because the destination will appear at some point. Lesson number 2, again, biased here. This is Jack Canfield's stuff here again. Jack Canfield's taking responsibility. I really enjoyed that episode, and it's even turned into a keynote that I use now about taking responsibility in our life. And I've started to use this in a lot of my conversations about we cannot control what happens in our life. And now I know that there's some devastating, absolute horrific things going on in the world right now, which is absolutely horrendous. It's absolutely horrible. It's sad even thinking about it right now. And I often think about a lot of the stuff that we do in our life and the things that we want to achieve. That taking responsibility episode for me was a game changer, because I went through that myself in 2020, where just losing everything, and what do I now do to respond to that? And it's those things about the 3 things that we have any control over is our thoughts, our behavior, and our stories that we tell ourselves. So we can't necessarily depict the outcomes that are going to happen to us in our career, in our life, in our business, but actually what we can do is just respond to that. And that for me is the real key thing here, is what can I now do going forward, taking responsibility for myself, in my business, my life. If I want to achieve these great things, then I need to take some responsibility for it. And that's the real key thing for me, taking some responsibility, or as Jack says, take 100% responsibility for yourself. The third thing is the third lesson really is about the present. And this links quite funny actually with lesson number 1, with the idea of the keep going forward and not knowing the destination, and always focusing on what you haven't got and what you really want. It's really important to focus on what you want in life and where you want to go. But I also think the thing that I've learned in season 3 in life, with having a daughter is being present. And for you listening to the episode at the start, you would have heard me read out a little passage, which was, because I don't live in either my past or my future, I'm interested only in the present. And if you can concentrate always on the present, you'll be a happy man. You'll see that there is life in the desert, there are stars in the heaven, but life will be a party for you, a grand festival, because life is the moment we're living right now. It's a little extract from The Alchemist. Highly recommend this book. It's literally 150 pages long, so if you are a slow reader, you can still read this in a good time. It's a lovely little parable, or a fable I should say, and I'm going to do an episode on this because it's basically a little story about a Spanish boy called Santiago that decides to go on a trip. He goes on an adventure and he decides to go from Spain, working as a shepherd with his sheep, feeling confident and just comfortable in life, and then going to follow his dreams. And it's all about finding his treasure. But there's a lot of other meanings in the book, and one of the lessons that he learns from it is that actually the present is the gift. That's the treasure. It's about living in the moment. And I often think that for this third lesson, it's about, whilst I'm very ambitious thinking about what I want from the future, if I want to be a TEDx talker or a TEDx speaker, realistically right now, I'm not a TEDx talker. So therefore, there could be that option that I say, I'm not a TEDx talker yet. And I'm starting to attract that sort of thing in my life, as I said earlier on, that if you focus on what you haven't got, that's where you start to attract. Now, it's important to have those big, ambitious dreams. And like David Heine says, to set huge, massive, unbelievably big goals. But actually, the present is also a gift. It's called the gift. The present, that word, is gift. So the past is the past. The past got us to where we got to right now. The future is really important. But as I shared in that solo episode called Smelling the Roses, living in the moment, living in the present is so important, because as we've seen in the world right now, there is some devastating things going on. Who knows what's around the corner? And it is important to have big dreams and big ambitions, but there's also that balance of present living, present enjoying right now. And that's the key thing. That is the gift. And that's my 3 lessons. Yeah, number 1 is the consistency. Just keep driving, thinking about those headlights 200 feet in front of you. That's all you can see. But as you start getting closer and closer, it starts to unfold. The destination will come. Just be patient and enjoy that moment. Number 2, taking responsibility. It's got to be about taking 100% responsibility for our life. Whatever is thrown in our life, in our business, in our career, in our jobs, you have to take responsibility for what you want. And that third thing is that's it. It's smelling the roses and it's living and enjoying the moment. Funnily enough, like I said, with that first lesson of driving, I have got this idea of that life is a detour. And, you know, sometimes I think when you're driving, if for any listeners out there, and if you drive right now, you'll know this. It's a classic NLP thing here with an anchor and a trigger. Red lights infuriate people. Diversions infuriate people. So sometimes when you see a diversion, you just go, oh, for fuck's sake, you know, bloody hell, this is going to make me late. This is going to add more time on my journey. But sometimes I think that those diversions are probably some of the best roads in the world. You know, I've been on a massive diversion in my life. In the last 2 years at least, I've probably had the most resilience I've ever had, you know, because of what's happened with COVID, like many people out there, and obviously going through a big personal life change with obviously my family and my daughter. But I think sometimes that life is a detour, and actually enjoy the ride. I think that's what we need to do. We need to keep driving with the headlights. The destination will appear. Take some responsibility for what is on that journey, on that road. And then number 3 is just enjoy the ride. Accept that failure is part of that journey. That will happen, but just enjoy the ride. There you go. That is, as sad as it sounds, the end of season 3. I know, how sad is that? We've come to a great end. It's March. I'm going to have a short break. And the reason being is that I want to come back with a big bang. For season 4, we're going to relaunch the podcast. We're going to go big. We're going to relaunch, make it big. We're going to do a big competition. Going to do something with a Patron as well. I'm going to do a special sort of offer. And we're going to make this really, really amazing, because I truly believe that this podcast deserves to be out there to more people. I truly believe that. And I think that the value that we can give to people to inspire people to be the best version of themselves and live an extraordinary life is so important. We need to do that. So watch this space. As always, if you listen to this episode, if you're listening right now at about 25, 26 minutes in, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Keep on being awesome. And remember, wherever you listen to, whether you're listening to in India, in Canada, in UK, USA, wherever you listen to, let us know. Give us a review. We know that 44% are listening on Apple Podcasts, so give us a review and a rating and tell us your Instagram handle or social media and we'll share it. We'd love to hear your thoughts and what country you are listening to. Let us know. And as always, a huge thank you to the massive support from the Patron community of this Unlocked podcast. Thank you, Anthony Howe, Cheri Brenton, Steve McDermott and Rory Barnes. You are awesome supporters. And if you want to find out how to get involved with that Patron community and get early access to episodes, bonus content, behind the scenes videos, and some training courses coming up soon, then just head to patreon.com/the Unlocked podcast. But as always, thank you for your amazing support. Take care of yourselves and yes, stay safe. It's a crazy world right now, but please stay safe and yes, be the best version of yourself. See you in season 4. Bye-bye.